So for those of you that haven't been here, there's been a couple of sessions about the Zero Hunger Project. The Barzinji Institute's Zero Hunger Project was a project that involved Shenandoah University's Center for Civic Engagement, working with Yarmouk University's Refugee Studies Center in Irbid, Jordan, to advance the UN Sustainable Development Goal of Zero Hunger. A team of students and faculty and staff volunteers at SU designed a survey to provide area food pantries with better data on the demographics and needs of food pantry clientele. Meanwhile, the SU team participated in virtual meetings with our partner, Yarmouk University's Zero Hunger team. They designed and conducted surveys in refugee camps in Jordan. So I'm going to have each of our panelists introduce themselves, and then we'll hear a little bit about each of the projects. So I'm Marguerite Landenberger from Shenandoah University.
I'm Reem Alkharouf from Yarmouk University.
I'm Ali Shehadeh from Yarmouk University.
I'm Rebecca Gibson from Shenandoah University.
And I'm Scott McClure from Shenandoah University.
And I'd love to hear from each of the teams, just a brief introduction of your project, the who, what, when, where, and how of your project and how it worked. So I'll start with our colleagues from Jordan.
Okay, the idea became when Mohammed Ubaid asked me to engage in the project. When I heard about Barzinji Institute and the aims, I said, okay, I am in. This is the first thing. Then I put the plan for the survey and the project when colleagues came to Jordan and signed the memorandum of understanding. We put a plan and the budget, all of these things. I think about how I can utilize the volunteer in center to do the survey and engagement to work with the refugees. Because that, we put a plan to see the needs of one of the refugees camp. It's for Palestinian refugees, and also to see what the needs of vulnerable people in one of poor pockets. It's called Sakhra in Ajloon Directorate. Then I came to USA in February. We met, Scott and me and the team, and we discussed the idea, put two plans to compare between the situation in Shenandoah and in USA and in Yarmouk and in Irbid. The thing is different because you have here bank food, but in Jordan we didn't have bank of food. Because that we want to do determine to do this survey to see if we need a food bank or something else to achieve the goal of the project and to help the refugees and vulnerable people. Thank you.
Yeah, so like many people have said, my involvement in this, of course, starts with Amy, because we were, I think, at a poetry reading, and she approached me asking sort of, oh, you're involved in food, right? Because my background prior to academia was in the food industry making snack foods. But pretty much immediately upon starting at Shenandoah, I began getting involved first with CCAP, which is one of the largest food pantries in the area, helping with data they had and ways where we as a university could provide assistance. And that then led to working with the Blue Ridge Area Food Bank, working with their data sets and trying really just to understand what I could provide with my sort of data science background. And then Amy approached me and sort of introduced me to the Barzinji project, and that we were looking to start something for the service pillar. And I'm a data person, so for me, research is service if you do it right. And I had just done a project with students interviewing volunteers at the food pantry to help their executive director get to know people volunteering with her, because she already was working 25 hours a day and didn't have time to sit an hour with every one of their volunteers and really understand. And then from that, it developed this idea of, well, we could do service for the whole food bank in the Winchester area by talking to people and going out to the larger food pantries in the area, and understand sort of why are they there. The food bank had huge amounts of data on sort of more of the demographics, income, age, race, sex, all of those things, but not the lives of the people coming to them. And it's not out of a lack of caring, but again, if the pantry is working 25 hours a day, the food bank is working 26, 27. So they are doing the real work of getting food to people, where I, as a data person, can help guide, but to me seems like the easier work where it's still incredibly valuable. So we worked, set up a team with sort of staff, faculty, and students to figure out what scope we could do. Built a survey based on some other existing surveys that are done in other states but haven't been done in Virginia, and then rolled that survey out over the last year, going to the 4 main food pantries in Winchester, collecting surveys, sometimes 10, 15 at a time, sometimes 1 or 2 at a time, as we were able to go out and reach the people there. And at the same time, regularly meeting first via Zoom and then in person, and then via Zoom again, but much more efficiently, having met in person, discussing what's working well, what could be improved, and how our while it sounds like we both did surveys, like we did sort of very similar goal of addressing food insecurity, but very different in the data produced, which is both exciting and fun to talk about.
So what did you learn about food security in the communities that you guys were working in, and how prevalent it was in those communities?
Okay, thank you for this question. I had to live near the camp, and I know the daily life of the people who live there, having, the concern that, will my children will be sleeping without having a dinner tonight? How can I make them forget about asking for food at least 3 meals a day? Maybe 2 is enough. So with this concern, and with other people in the opposite neighborhood, they have more food waste or food waste than they consume. You will see that they are producing maybe double the food or triple the food they consume. So with this unbalanced equation, I had this in mind. So Dr. Reem came one day and said, okay, we have this idea to work in SDG 2, Zero Hunger. So I said, I'm in. He said, okay, you are a civil engineer. So I said, no, I'm civil engineer, and but I need to make a change. I can help you analyzing the data. We can do all types of regression, all types of analysis. I can even learn from scratch any technique you would like, but I need to be in and to get this done and have an impact in my society. I don't want to see people living in hunger anymore. So this was a motivation behind this. You won't imagine their, let's say, their actions. I think you can ask the volunteers. While they felt that somebody cares, somebody out there is feeling about our, let's say, being our suffer, and they are trying to do some solutions that can make our lives better. Even asking them was a very huge step for them forward. So they felt that they are now under our attention, and we are trying to make their lives better. So this was the main motivation indeed.
Can you speak a little bit about the?
Sure, you asked, what did we learn about food insecurity?
Yeah, what
Okay.
you saw in terms of
Okay.
food insecurity in Winchester.
So I am the director of civic engagement. So here at Shenandoah, I help our students find opportunities to serve in the community. So I was familiar with the food pantries. I had visited them with students, having them volunteer there, and I had talked with the director. So I thought that I understood what the food insecurity situation was in our community. And I did have a kind of a factual knowledge of it, but this project really helped me see things in a different way, which I appreciated. So I often accompanied our students on the team to the food pantries to do the surveys. I felt like I was helpful because I do speak Spanish, and many of the clients at the food pantries also speak Spanish, so that was kind of my role to do the Spanish surveys. But what I felt like I learned, and I think I can speak for our team, anybody who experienced that, was that food insecurity, you can know the facts about it. You can know that there are a certain percentage of people in your community that maybe do not have enough food on a regular basis. But when you go to these locations and speak to people one-on-one, even though we were only talking about the questions on our phone, on the survey, there wasn't a lot of opportunity to have personal conversation. But even with just that, we were able to see that there are actual real live people in our community experiencing this every day. And they're really no different from us. They look like us. They live in our community. They drive the same car that we drive. But for whatever reason, they might be struggling, maybe temporarily, maybe for a long time, with food insecurity. And we would have people tell us, that this was a new problem for them, that the prices of groceries had gone up so much lately that all of a sudden they needed help feeding their family that week. Or perhaps something unusual had happened in their life. Maybe their car broke down, something simple like that, but that costs a lot of money and you don't have transportation for a little while. But just the opportunity to interact with individuals, even on a surface level, and learn that this kind of situation could happen to anybody, to any of us, was very eye-opening to our students and to me personally. So that was very helpful to me to learn.
Thanks. What were some of the similarities, especially after having the opportunity to visit the other team? What were some of the similarities that you noticed between the two projects? Scott, do you want to?
Yeah, and I think one of the similarities comes down to we're both addressing food insecurity, which we call this the Zero Hunger Project because of the UN sustainability goals, but hunger means a very different thing here, where not being sure you'll have enough of the types of foods you need for your family, that is food insecurity. And we can call that hunger, but here in the US, it's not calories. Like, it is not sort of an issue of calories, but it is no less significant if you know your children need fruit, fresh fruits and vegetables to be healthy, and you can't afford that. That's sort of that feeling of insecurity, and understanding how even within a very similar area, people are experiencing it differently. And when we were in Jordan, it seemed even there's not one thing happening. It's sort of people have entire lives, and food is just one part of it. You don't just experience food insecurity. You experience food insecurity and housing insecurity. And I mean, in our surveys, half the people said they'd had to choose between paying for food and heating their home or paying for gas for their vehicle, which now that you've been in Winchester for a little bit, vehicles are not really optional here. So not having gas for your car means not making it to your job, which cycles and cycles. And so the fact that food is what we're discussing, but it is not just food that people need.
Do you want to speak to some of the differences that you noticed between the two projects?
Yes. First of all, I will talk in a scientific way because we did a research first. I wrote the methodology about the research. We determined the sample 400 family. These guys, the volunteer, they met 400 family. Did you imagine that? And there is a 3 supervisor, Azam, Munir, and one of our colleague in Jordan. They supervised this work. We worked till evening to do the, and Khalid, sorry Khalid. We prepare the questionnaire and we judge the questionnaire and we work with DOS, Department of Statistics, because this is the first time this kind of work done in Jordan, especially for refugees. We examine the the questionnaire, and we train these volunteers how they can deal with family and how they will be kind and acceptable from the family. They went to their homes, get photos, Khalid do the GIS data, and we check the accuracy of the data. The volunteer enter the data and give me a lot of picture. In Washington, D.C., I present the picture, all of these things, but here there is, you know, I don't know if we have this, but you can go to our website and see the project in our website. At the end of the day, we analyze the data and we did the research and we publish it. And immediate of our work, when we finalize our work, we send the publication to Prince Al-Hassan, because Prince Al-Hassan, he's the creator of our center. He's very happy with that. And there is a lady from Oxford University come to our university, and we met her, and now we are going to work here in another project. It's multi-criteria of poverty, of poverty. The differences is we work with people in their home. There is no food pantry. There is no donation, nothing for them. Here, there is food bank. You work with the people already. They get their needs from food bank. But also there is something common. The style of life, the conditions, also the aim of the project. I learned a lot from the previous visit to USA, because I saw the pantry, food bank, and I saw the people, and I saw how they deal and work with this thing. And I transfer this knowledge to Jordan. This is the more important thing. And if we now we work with some people who want to give us money or donation or fund to buy a fridge to put it in front of mosque, and the people they will provide this fridge with food for the people who needs food. Thank you. I talk a lot.
I'm going to go a little bit off script. As you were talking, I was thinking about all the things that have surprised me as working on this project. And I'd love to hear from everyone on the panel, what was most surprising, or a few things that were surprising to you as you worked on this project, whether it be working with partners, or what surprised you about the other country, or what surprised you about your research. So I'd love to hear some of the things that were surprising.
One of the, let's start from the Jordanian context. One of the surprising things that when the planting the roofs, having agricultural roofs solutions, this interventions was refused by 20% of the people, because they didn't have a roof that can withstand putting the soil on that roof. So imagine living in a soil that has leakage, and cannot withstand the let's say not that much load, having this layer of soil. So I was so surprised that they are living also in a condition, as Dr. Scott highlighted, more than just food insecurity, even in infrastructure insecurity. So this was also, this opened our eyes. And this is, let's say, a domino effect, the amplifier for the project, that we need to, let's say, investigate more in the infrastructure stability of the camp and how we can help them to support and maintain their roofs, so at least they can live safely in their home, and maybe they can have more applicable interventions to fight the hunger. The other side, when we compare the Jordanian context and the US context, so the main, let's say, target of this project is humanity. We are talking with the humans who are sitting in lines, and they are looking forward just to get the minimum minerals, the minimum dietary habit that they can live with their children in a healthy life. So we had the same thing, that they are in some occasions, let's say in Jordanian context, we have in Ramadan, we have some people who donate foods. The people are in rows and lines waiting for their turn, and sometimes they will be begging for, please give me more, I have more children in my house. And also here at the food bank, they are sitting there, please give me this type, it's finished. So how can I live without having the eggs and milk and these ingredients? So humans, we are talking about humans here. So this is amplifies our duty towards such a great project, from my point of view at least.
Can I add just one thing? I'm so sorry. In our research, there is a lot of parts. One of parts talk about health, the other about education, early marriage. We're surprised that a lot of ladies or children marriage in early childhood. Also, the health. A lot of people have a problem in their health. The dropout rate is very, very, very high. And a lot of children enter the labor market. It's a big problem. And they are human. We need to help them, because that we work a lot for them with many of our partners to help them to have a good life.
I was surprised when we started going out to the food pantries and asking people if we could ask them questions. I was very surprised at how willing many of them were to talk to us. I kind of thought ahead of time that they were going to say, no, I don't have time to answer your questions. And sometimes that did happen. Sometimes people literally did not have time or really were not interested. But when we told them that we were visiting the food pantry from Shenandoah University and that we were doing research for the benefit of the food pantry and the services they offer, most of the people were willing to talk to us, and many of them shared information with us that we didn't even ask for. And I was also surprised when we first started communicating with the team from Jordan, in one of our very first Zoom calls, the students in Jordan said, when we go and visit the camps and talk to the people, they just talk and talk, and they tell us everything. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's very similar. And here we are in completely different cultures, completely different situations, but we're experiencing that same thing. So that would be also one of the similarities that I saw in our projects, that people were really willing to talk to us. I'm thinking they perceived that we were trying to help them, and they were willing to help the food pantry because they appreciate the food pantry. So that was a very positive part of the experience.
Yeah, and then one thing we did here while we were still collecting data, sort of preliminary data presentation, in Winchester, they've actually started, they call it the, I think, Frederick County Winchester Food Providers Group, But it's essentially a place where you get not just the food bank and the food pantries, but other community services together quarterly to, I mean, one of the main objectives was just to know each other are there and know who the leaders of the other agencies are. But they also would invite us to come and talk about what we're seeing in the survey. And while our survey is far shorter sort of by design, even that amount of data, we were able to present meaningful conclusions that they were either surprised by or not surprised by, but it's nice to have an outside group give you numbers supporting that. People using food pantries in Winchester want fresh fruits and vegetables, the same as people not using food pantries in Winchester. Most people who use food pantries in Winchester don't qualify for SNAP food stamp benefits because in the US, there is government provided food aid if you don't have a high income or any money in savings, and there's citizenship requirements. But those limits are so low that there are many people who improve their financial situation, but then lose the government food benefits and now have more costs than they did before, but aren't making enough to go and buy $90 of produce to feed a family of 5 for a week. But all of this information, giving it out to the food banks as we were collecting it, and then seeing them sort of say, oh, and then discuss with each other and say, oh, where do you go to get this when you're out? Do you have a better supply of, and just seeing that start taking off separate from kind of the seed crystal of our research is exciting, which is important because the need is only growing, especially as pandemic SNAP benefits have been sort of pulled back. So,
I actually had the privilege of participating in this project as well. And one of the things that really surprised me in such a beautiful way was seeing even people that are experiencing such food insecurity and other housing insecurity, their generosity. And especially I saw that in Jordan. In Jordan, I was also overwhelmed by the sense of loving their ability to or desire to love their neighbor. We had the privilege of being invited into the home of one of the families in a camp, and they, offered us coffee. They were kind and discussed, were willing to share with us, like Rebecca said, so much information because they realized that we wanted to help them. And it was really touching and surprising and beautiful.
And
so
similar to that here, yeah. Many of the volunteers at the food pantries are they themselves people who use the food pantries. And so we see even people in need taking the limited time they have to help others, which is great to see.
Yeah. Can you describe a little bit more about the communities that you worked in the refugee camps that you were working in?
Yes. Okay. The family in the refugees camp, they are Palestinian. The size of the family, it's from 5 to 6 people in the family. Their salary is less than $200 per month. And a lot of them, or most of them, their home is rented. And they are in, bad condition. The size of home is so small. There is no sewage, and a lot of condition is not good. And also they look for us as helper. Yes, they said, okay, there is donation, there is project, please. We need donation, we need projects. We said, no, it's a research project, but if we can help, we can help. A lot of them, when we call them to come to interview, they said we can't come because we didn't have money to come. And a lot of them have a disability thing. They ask us, can I send my wife? Can I send my daughter? Can I send my children? Because they didn't want to absent the interview. And when I saw the picture of their home, I spent 1 week in bad condition, because we have a lot in our house, and always we said, oh, we didn't have this thing. I saw my kids, they buy a lot of thing, wear a lot of thing, and we cook a lot. Next day, our kids, they didn't want to eat this, they want to get a quick meal, all of these things. And these people and this kid, they didn't eat a meat for a month or 2 months. That's it.
Yeah, and our situation is almost on the other side, where we were able to look at the data we collected and found a few different overlapping communities, because all of the pantries we looked at are sort of very physically close to each other, but we're serving different groups of people. And importantly, we found the same level of food insecurity in these different groups. So it's not like one food pantry was serving people in less need, but one community was much more likely to be older, without children in the home, own their own home, own a car, and you think, oh, they must be doing, why do they need the food pantry? Well, if you have to drive, you have to pay for car repairs, you have to pay for gas. If you own your home, you have to prioritize paying. You can't move, because then you'd lose one of the few sort of major assets you have. Where another community was much younger, much more likely to have children, much more likely to speak Spanish and not qualify for any sort of government aid, which, again, very geographically close, but when we think about what we can do to help, those communities may need different solutions, where they all were choosing between buying food and other bills they needed to pay. And pretty much everyone we surveyed said fresh fruits and vegetables, meat, dairy, and eggs are the most important things, even though they're only getting maybe half of their food from the food pantry. The rest they're buying with the money they have. And so seeing just how, need is need. If you're not fully food secure, you're not fully food secure. But understanding sort of the subtle differences helps with then what's the next step.
Yes.
Speaking of the next step, how can the information and the key findings of your research be used to influence policy or make change?
Yes, of course.
Regarding the key findings, we were surprised that the geographic location, we had distribute the survey into two, let's say, distant geographic locations. So one in Irbid, one in Ajloun. The geographic location was insignificant. So this was one of the observations. So the suffer is still there, even with different contexts. They have maybe different weather. Ajloun is higher than Irbid. They can grow maybe more different type of let's say, vegetables and fruits, but still they have the same issues. The education played a very critical role. The level of education played a very critical role in their responses and how they have received the interventions that we have proposed to them, and how they could create their own solutions. So this led us to a very interesting conclusion that we cannot work on food insecurity alone. We have to work on education, and we have to work in their infrastructure also, because their infrastructure also did a very influential role in their lifestyle. On the other hand, we have been surprised that let's say when a woman is pregnant, her lifestyle is better than being pregnant outside the camp, because now with being close to each other, they are very closely related. The bond is very strong from social point of view. So she will be receiving support from the neighbors. So there is some, let's say, shiny spots, and there is some issues that we need to work on. So now we have a better understanding. I believe that the picture is clear for us. We have to work on their education. We have to work on their awareness also, because on average, the family they have 5 to 6 children. With this economic situation, they're still, having this lifestyle. So we need to make them more aware how they can manage their life, and also the infrastructure. When we integrate these things, I believe that this will help in solving the zero hunger issue. So it's a very complicated, integrated relations between all the 3 pillars.
If I can add something, okay. Okay, for next step, I look to have zero hunger too. Yes, and also to put the result of the research in the table of the decision maker. Because when I send the research for Prince Al Hassan, he sent it to the Social Security Ministry to get the recommendation and to implement the thing to make the condition better. And also they send the same research for the DOS, the Department of Statistics. And now we prepare for the survey for whole refugees in Jordan. And I would like to also to contact with people who have money. It's maybe people, have factories, have, a good work to give us to implement the fridge in the camp and in Sakhra. Also, we have now a project with WISC. It's a Canadian. It's a Canadian parties or stakeholder with the center. Now we want to train the people from camp to be opportunity, not a threat, and to earn some money to make their condition better.
Yeah, and ours, I think, again, one of the big differences is that we have the food bank well established here. And through reporting the results that we had, I do think it was very important that we were separate from the food bank as we were doing this, to kind of prove out and not put pressure on people to give us data that they don't want to answer. But now that we've done it and we can sort of have shown how valuable this data can be, the Blue Ridge Area Food Bank can now look at, can they expand the scope of a survey like this? Because we looked just within Winchester, but the Blue Ridge Area Food Bank covers over 20 counties. Like, I think I looked it up, like roughly a third of the size of Jordan. And can they find other universities within their service area that are within their local communities to really expand this out and do it sort of similarly in a formal way over the whole network? And that is outside of my scope, but it's sort of seeing the start of those conversations happen, and even just seeing how valuable what before you collect it looked like a very small amount of data can be. I do think it will continue on, and the conversations between the leaders of the food pantries that we were able to sort of contribute to developing those relationships and strengthening that will continue to grow.
Well, I want to open it up and see if there's any questions in the audience, and then we can take those questions if anybody has any. Or anyone on Zoom as well.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for the clarification you have made. While you were talking, I remembered one concept that I had in my mind throughout the entire presentation, Maslow's taxonomy. Have you ever heard of Maslow's taxonomy? Especially when Dr. Ali talked about education, the students' education outcomes. And here we recall the very famous slogan that you remember that taxonomy of Maslow's taxonomy of needs. So we have to fulfill their food, water, infrastructure needs before we move to education. So before we bloom. Remember this? Have you ever related your project to this taxonomy, the needs of taxonomy of needs regarding food, shelter, and water needs, especially food, since you are talking about food? Thank you.
Shall we answer one by one? Yes, one by one, because if you allow me. Yes, of course, because we are scientific, and we are, professors, and we teach this. The secure water, food is the most important thing. But education, the impact of education, if the people well educated and get a job, they will be secure, have a water, have a food. Yes. Yes. And in Jordan, there is a feeding program in school. A lot of families send their kids to school just to get the food from school. It's from first grade to sixth grade. And also in rural areas, they give them for their family, because that they send their student to school and the student didn't drop out.
Yeah, and we have similar in the US, the National School Lunch Program, and there's sort of an increasing national push to move to universal free lunch, because now we have a mixture of free, reduced, and full cost, but still very inexpensive. But I believe Winchester City Public Schools already has implemented universal free school lunch. So regardless of your family's situation, you can get breakfast and lunch. And we have backpack programs where they will send students home with a backpack of food and snacks on weekends so they can, but that's the way you get education before you've met the others, is you use schools to do it.
So if I may add something. Thank you for the question. Indeed, the education problem was because when we have a proposal for them, let's say the food bank, refrigerators at food bank, it's not easy to convince them with such interventions unless they are well educated. On the other hand, when the infrastructure is not good, they don't have enough sunlight, they have some problems in their vitamin D, vitamin C. So also this problem is propagated. So if they are, from the beginning, if they are well educated, they can, let's say, okay, have good jobs, that's good. And also have more open style life and open, let's say, hearts for new interventions. So this was one of the observations that we have. So we have to work, I believe, from my point of view, we have to work on the 3 pillars. Okay, we start with, this is why we start with a zero hunger. This is a priority, but also we cannot ignore preparing the infrastructure and providing them with good education. So this can integrate and at least give them a better future. Thank you for the question.
Hi, everyone. First of all, I want to thank you for the amazing work you have done. I don't think that saying thank you is enough. I guess I'm just grateful for the work that you've done, because you're making a difference in our communities, the communities that we live in, and you are making an awareness. You've been there, you've seen their situation. So it's amazing what you've done. And also your research might be small and you still want to do more, but it's opening doors to, like you said, improving their life, their situation, their living situation, improving their education. You're bringing awareness not only to us, to the communities, but also, as Dr. Reem mentioned, to higher levels in the government, and that's what's important. Well, that brings me to the next question. I'm interested in your surveys and questions. As a professor of statistics myself, I was curious of when you collaborated on, when you decided to work on these 2 different yet similar projects, did you decide on the questions? Did you use the same questionnaires and surveys? And also, when you created these questionnaires and questions, what inspired you to ask this specific question? Like, did you have to visit them first to evaluate their situation, and based on that, ask questions? If you can just tell me a little bit about this, please, and also maybe just provide a few examples. I know the survey is probably long. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes. Thank you. As you know, before you make a questionnaire, you have to see something similar. And before that, you have to get a sample from the people you want to give them the questionnaire. We have a lot of focus group from these people, and we ask about their needs. And we have 5 or 6 parts of the questionnaire. The general information, about education, health, about their food, about their salary, income, all of these issues. After that, we send this questionnaire for the people who work in the same field and to this Department of Statistics. And we consult also a researcher who do similar job, not just in Jordan, outside in Jordan. And we also discuss the questionnaire with the refugees themselves, because we have a refugee student in university, and we have also, the camp is so near to the university, and we work with the people from the camp itself. They know the situation and the context of the camp. Dr. Ali, if you want to add.
Thank you for this, if you allow me. So when the US team from Shenandoah visited us, we have discussed we have already established, or at least we have already established our survey. So we have discussed what can be in common. And if you remember, Dr. Scott, we have this on the presentation, and we have said this column can be shared and this cannot be. Let's say, from my point of view, the 2 surveys can be integrated, and it can be a multi-level survey. So the basic level start in Jordan, because they didn't have food, sometimes they have nothing to eat. And then you can move forward when you have at least enough food to survive and not to be hungry. You can move forward that towards being what type of food that we need to consume. I think we are focusing here about what type of food that we need. It's not about calories. The calories is enough here at the US, but the type of food, how to be healthy food, and what ingredients are in the food. So I believe that it's a multi-stage work, and hopefully in Jordan that when we pass this stage, due to such good projects, we can move forward and we can also use the US, let's say, experience and reflect it to our Jordanian context.
Yeah, and another difference again, because we are working with the food bank, the core of our survey, we developed it with them to essentially say, what do you need answers with to help your decision making? So actually in earlier stages of the survey, we had questions about sort of satisfaction with the food pantries themselves. We wound up not using it because all of the people going to the food pantries were so grateful for what they were receiving. We couldn't get them to say anything negative, which made the questions not useful. But maybe Rebecca, you could talk. We also, a major consideration was our survey needed to be 5 minutes or less, or people would not complete it. And so we went with the students' rounds of piloting. Some of our early pilots at CCAP. Yes, do I remember them? Yeah. Yes. But
We did have questions that we ended up taking out. We had a lot of very specific questions about the different types of food, and I remember one of the questions was like they had to say whether they had enough, too much, not quite enough. It was just very complicated, and it made our questions take so much longer. So we ended up simplifying, basically listening to what our students told us when they tried to ask the questions and kind of got bogged down in that. There was at one point where we made a paper list with the different categories: meat, produce, eggs, dairy products, and we would point at them and say, too much, not enough, just enough, and it was just too many questions. It was too complicated, and people would get frustrated and not be willing to complete the survey. So we had to simplify things a little bit just to get some clear answers and not get bogged down in the process.
Is there one more question? Oh. Sorry.
Last session, very sad, you know. Thank you very much. I congratulate you, all of you. You are doing a great job. And for me, this was also emotional session. I really like your strategy that you were mentioning that goes, when it comes to education, that strategy goes alongside with your efforts to expand opportunities to do research on this topic and, you know, to provide people with the food. If I may speak about from my experience, you know, I experienced the lack of food as a child during the war. It lasted for almost 5 years. Of course, alongside with the fear, insecurity, but the lack of food was a huge problem. I lost my appetite and I suffered from that maybe for 10 years. Now I don't have problem. You know, I can eat a lot now. But at that time, my mom was saying me, just learn, we will succeed. And we managed somehow. And just continue with that work. You are doing a great job, and may God reward you. Okay, thank you very much.
Any final remarks? You want to just wrap up anything, Marguerite?
So this is a message from here, from Shenandoah, from the USA, from the Barzinji Institute, from Yarmouk University, to all the people who are hungry. You will never walk alone. Not anymore, not anymore.